Hi guys, Stem Cell here. So I believe the United States is headed for war, World War III, to be honest with you. And no one else is talking about this, and I don't know why. But anyways, at the I will let you know what I think here, and continue to watch the video, subscribe, like, comment. Also, please, if you like the video, but let's get into it. Something unusual is happening. The Department of War has reportedly called back America's top generals for a high-level meeting. Now, this is not something they usually do. In fact, historically, when all generals are recalled like this, it usually for a single purpose. We are on the brink of war, or we are at the very least preparing for a major conflict. Some people are saying because Pete Hegseth has he has fired some people. He wants to get rid of the wokeness in the United States military, have it based on merit, which heck yes, that's the way it has to be. Anyways, some people think they're bringing them all back there to fire them. This doesn't make sense, and I'll tell you why. They have secure comms, and literally they could just call up a phone and fire the generals that they want to fire. They don't need to bring them all to one building. They could do this over video calls that are secured, but he is bringing them all back, and it doesn't make sense if he's going to fire some of them, and he's not going to fire all of them. Of course not. So this stuff doesn't make any sort of sense to me. What does make sense is we're on the brink of war. And a lot of people think that it has to do with Russia, but I have some other ideas that I'd like to share with you. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the rest of it. Now, many people will immediately point to Russia. They say, well, it must be about Moscow. Drones buzzing over NATO countries like Romania, Poland, and even Denmark. Sure, those incidences are concerning, but let's be real. Russia does not have the capability to directly threaten the United States homeland. They are bogged down in Ukraine. Their military has taken enormous losses, and their economy is struggling under sanctions. The Kremlin can saber rattle, but they are not about to cross the Atlantic and start a shooting war with America. I know that Alaska's airspace has been, Russian jets have been flying into our airspace, these things happening in NATO. I believe these are a distraction. They're trying to distract us from something else. The real story, though, so if the real story, if it's not Russia, then who? The real story is China. Over the last 3 months, Beijing has quietly and aggressively built up its forces around Taiwan. A new docking atmosphere. New docks for amphibious tanks, fresh deployments of long-range missiles, non-stop naval exercises in the Taiwan Strait. These are not random drills. They rehearsed for an invasion. Think about it. China has escalated its rhetoric, cut off official communications with the U.S., and even shadowed an American and Japanese warships in the Pacific. At the same time, intelligence reports suggest Chinese shipyards are working overtime to push out new warships at a rate we haven't seen since the Cold War. So here's my take. I haven't heard of anyone else put it this way. China strikes Taiwan first, then drags the United States into a full-scale war in the South Pacific. And once America's fully distracted, Russia will make its move onto Europe and attack Europe. This is a perfect 1-2 punch, and Beijing and Moscow are betting that we can't fight two wars at once. So let me real quickly. Here's the article about Pete Hegseth and us going. Him bringing all the 800 generals. And you got to think, too, he's pulling people out of active conflict zones. So just to fire people, this wouldn't make sense, guys. He's not this way. He was a soldier. Think about it. So there's got to be a real good reason he's pulling everyone down there. So anyways, I want to show you, if you take a look right here, these are special boats that China has made to create artificial docks, so they can literally drive tanks right on to Taiwan at any point, and they've made multiples of these boats. They're actually boats, so you see these legs right here. They'll drive it up close to the beach, and then they'll push up these legs, and then put out a boom like this, and then they have 3 of these connectors, so they essentially have a deep water port, and they literally can drive an on-off ship right up to the back of this and start driving tanks and whatever they need right off. And this is really hard to stop, essentially. But you know, those, like, look at those ships, look how big they are. You're gonna have to destroy that whole thing, and it's not gonna be easy. But let's see if I can get a better. Yeah, so this is kind of just a smaller version of it, and so they'll actually have a few of these put together, like 1, 2, 3, to get it out to deeper waters. Then they have this, drives tanks right off, boom, right onto the beach. You see right there, and that's kind of the general idea, as they're, you know, they could parachute troops onto Taiwan, and helicopters, all sorts of things. It would be a hornet's nest, guys. This is the second largest military power besides the United States, and the second largest economy. And I would say actually they might be spending more on defense than us at the current moment, and we can't produce ships like they can. They can pump them out, and so they already have more ships than us, which is really concerning. But here's a video of, at least it should be a video. Yeah, see, here's another one, there's another one. They put all those together, that gets them out deep enough to where they can just drive one of those boats that can put a bunch of tanks and all sorts of things on. And so this gets them past the deep water port problem, which they would have if they're invading Taiwan, because Taiwan only has so many deep water ports, and Taiwan's strategy would be to destroy these ports, so China can't use them to put troops on. But as you look, they don't have to actually necessarily have to take it that way. They can just get a bunch of these boats and start driving tanks right off into Taiwan. Let me go over one thing too. You know, maybe some people are thinking like, hey, you know, like, yeah, it's a bad thing if Taiwan gets attacked, but why does the United States care? And I'll explain real quickly, is that Taiwan is the only place in the world that makes microchips for computers, for Apple Watches, for iPhones. So they make 60% of the microchips on the planet, but they make 90% of the advanced computer chips on the planet. And this is like, I know that we are working on building our own factories here in America to kind of make some of these microchips as they have, but it's hard to make them as cheap, and it takes a real long time to set up. Anyways, this is why the United States has to care, guys. Do you remember during COVID when used cars went way up? The reason for that is because the Taiwanese TSMC computer chip factory place stopped functioning, and so all of a sudden you can get computer chips for cars, and that's why used vehicles shot up in price like crazy during that. And that's just a little taste. If China it actually invades Taiwan, will like literally it will stop the world's economy. This is the beating heart of the world's economy. Very, very important. So let's go into the rest of the context. So let me give you some context here. During World War II, the United States built what FDR called the arsenal of democracy. We supplied weapons and fought wars in Europe and the Pacific. But that was the Americans had an unmatched industry might today, which I would say China's has us overmatched on industry, guys. It's not a good thing. Today, the U.S. military has shrunk. We have fewer ships than we did in the 80s. Right around the 1990s, I believe we had, I can't remember. It was like 600 ships or something like that. Right after World War II, we had somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000. Fewer frigates, fewer fighter squadrons, and many of our munition stockpiles are already strained from helping Ukraine. Also, they say there was some sort of unclassified war game, and they said in 3 weeks we would run out of missiles and armaments. That's a problem. Anyway, so meanwhile, China has the world's largest navy by number of ships. They doubled their missile arsenal in the past decade, and Russia, despite its problems, still fields a large number, the largest number of nuclear arsenal on Earth. So ask yourself, why would the Pentagon call every general in right now? Why would they take this step unless they see a threat forming, pretty much? I believe this meeting isn't just about Russian drones. I believe it's about China. The generals are gaming out the reality. If Taiwan fails, America will be sucked into a war that could change the entire world order. And while our focus is on Taiwan, Putin will test the NATO in Europe. So, also, 3 months ago, there was not really a big force across from Taiwan. Since then, they've been doing tons and tons of war games, and they've slowly built up a massive force across from Taiwan. And this is the same thing that happened in Ukraine when they were building numbers up against Ukraine, and they're like, oh, we're not going to attack, and then they attacked. So, it's getting fairly scary. If we go to war with China, it's going to be no joke, guys. They outnumber us. They can make more ships than us. They can make more tanks. We have better tanks. We have a good chance. But like some real things are going to have to change. And I believe, I don't know. It's getting scary. But let me show you a video of the Chinese parade that just recently happened, the Chinese military parade, and let me see what you guys think. So, a lot of people, will criticize the Chinese equipment and be like, "Oh, it's made in China, it will fall apart." And there is something to be said about that, but also, Joseph Stalin said there is a quality to quantity all of its own. So I could go into more details, but I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there, guys. I will go in more depth about this. Guys, please subscribe to not miss anything, and like and comment the video, and I will see you guys on the next one.